All right, we're recording. Okay, so nutrition. To start things off, nutrition, it can be a touchy subject for many people. When it comes to nutrition, the thing that, like the old adage, like the things you don't want to talk about with people are nutrition, religion, and politics, and money. It's the fourth one. So it can be a touchy subject for most. And so just to maybe preface it, the stance I take when it comes to nutrition is very agnostic. I don't like to push certain things on certain individuals, especially as I was chatting with Kaylin there before the call. The more one-on-one I'm working with an individual, the more we're going to find out what works for them. Okay. When it comes to a coach-client relationship, it's never a one-size-fits-all, and any coach or anybody that tells you otherwise probably has an agenda behind it. And so when it comes to, nutrition, we'll go into some details here, but you want to kind of walk into this with a little bit more of an open mind, ready to learn. And one of the sayings that I always have is, if you come with your cup full, there's no way I can add to that. There's no knowledge I can pass off to you. But if you come with an empty cup, I can give you all the knowledge that I have, or at least within the confines of a 60-minute webinar masterclass. But when it comes to nutrition, coming in with an open mind can be important. And like I said, my goal is not to push any one thing on you. It's just to educate you and hopefully give you the tools so that you can have the proper tools to make the right decisions going forward throughout your life. So the training objectives today, we're going to go through some common misconceptions about nutrition. And I hate the word diets personally, but nutrition and diets, we're going to go over some common misconceptions with that. We're going to go over the non-negotiables of nutrition. So these are like foundational, like these are absolutes. And I know I said before that you shouldn't listen to somebody that speaks in absolutes. But these are, you'll see in a second, very basic rules on which to build your nutrition around. And in fact, I'm going to give you 4 very simple rules to build your nutrition around. Okay. So walking out, you're going to have some very basic knowledge of nutrition, and especially as it relates to your career or hopeful career as a first responder. Okay. We're going to go through a proper nutrition protocol and ways that you can ensure to make sure you make the progress you want to make and live the life you want to live. I'm also going to give you at the end of the call a link. You're going to have the opportunity to get a customized nutrition guide, which will give you guidance for portions, macros, and calories specific to you. Okay. This is hyper individualized. Obviously I am going to require some information from you in order to build that out. And it's not meant to be a be all end all, but it's meant to give you a very good foundation on which to move forward with. Okay. So when it comes to nutrition, hopefully my internet's going to follow along here. Again, just like yesterday, who this is for and who it is not for: female first responders. You have some experience, but you're looking at kind of getting the next result. And you're ultimately looking for higher performance, better results, what have you. Being nutrition, I do have to put this disclaimer in. If you want to pause the screen, if you're watching the recording, feel free to do so. But it's basically saying in a nutshell that, make sure that you are educated. Okay. Talk with your doctor, talk with a dietitian and nutritionist. I am not a dietitian. I'm not a nutritionist. I am first and foremost a strength coach and personal trainer. And so as such, I can give guidance. I can give recommendations. However, if you have underlying health concerns, diabetic, MLS, anything like that, make sure that you are on the same page as the professionals you trust, and follow their advice as well. This is not meant to contradict. It's meant to add some education to the overall picture. Okay. So with at the end of the training, we got another participant here jumping in. At the end of the training, okay, we're going to go through some common misconceptions about the nutrition industry and how to decipher from the bullshit. Okay, there's lots of bullshit floating out there when it comes to nutrition. And so I'm going to give you some tools to kind of arm yourself when looking at those things. Like I said, we're going to go over some non-negotiable rules around nutrition and some, we'll say, understandings. And then I'm going to give you 4 simple rules to base your nutrition on. Okay. Proper nutrition protocol, you're going to get that. And then, like I said, at the end, I'll give you a link to get a customized nutrition guide, which, myself, and I actually work with a nutrition coach on my team. Her name is Victoria. Either myself or Victoria will email that nutrition guide directly to you. Okay. So looks like there's a bit of delay. Why I built the training, again, we went over this yesterday in the physical training. I just want to see first responders and women that I have worked with over the years. I want to see them empowered, educated, and knowledgeable about how to live the life they want to live and achieve the things they want to achieve. So if you stay to the end, again, you're going to get clarity. You're going to get those 4 simple rules and that customized nutrition guide. Okay. The biggest problems with nutrition today. So I'm going to highlight some very common things that you likely will see. Now, again, I encourage you guys, use the chat box, ask some questions here, because we can get pretty detailed into this stuff. I'm going to try and keep it high level overview and easily understood. But if a question's popping up at you, please, please, please feel free to ask, and I will respond. There we go. I'll just make sure I have the chat open and free so that I can see it. So, biggest problems with nutrition today. First and foremost, a bit of delay on the computer, is when it comes to nutrition, everyone is pushing their own diets and beliefs based on versus basic nutritional science. Okay, so when it comes to watching documentaries on online or on Netflix or anything like that, when it comes to like anything and everything you read, watch, or see or hear, when it comes to nutrition, is often has an agenda behind it. Okay, they're trying to sell you something. They're trying to get you bought into a belief that this way is the right way. Okay. And this goes for everything. This goes for keto. This goes for, plant-based. This goes for a new one is carnivore diet. Like, doesn't matter the diet. There's always going to be an agenda behind it. So anybody that is pushing a particular diet or a particular nutrition protocol generally is going to have some agenda behind it. Not to say they don't mean well. I find in most cases they do mean well. They are trying to help, but understand that there is an agenda behind it, and you kind of have to take things with not as law. Okay, you need to take the information that you read or see online as this is one viewpoint, this is one stance, one stat, and they might present you with quote unquote facts that are hard to argue against. But if there's one thing I've learned in the nutrition space is that you can make up any sort of stance or claim, and there's always going to be some scientific evidence supporting that. So just understand that there are some basic nutritional principles that you want to build around. Everyone's pushing their own diets, okay, and beliefs. Okay. Another problem is that there's a common thing that less food equals better results. Okay, I'm going to go over this in a bit, but there's a lot that's inherently wrong with that interpretation or that understanding or that thought process when it comes to nutrition, and especially when it comes to nutrition for performance for female first responders. Okay, there's this, this is usually pushed out by marketers, and I would say not ethical people. But the idea that like you can achieve amazing results in a short time frame. Anytime you see like, get a 6-pack in 3 weeks or something like that, that's, again, it depends on the person. It's very nuanced when making those sort of claims. And so to have a blanket statement like that can be dangerous. And we'll get into a second why that's so dangerous. But it is a huge problem. Okay. And you probably run into this if you've read anything on science or on nutrition or nutrition science, you probably find that a lot of things conflict with each other. Okay. It's, one nutritionist or dietitian is saying this and the other is saying something that seems to contradict. And ultimately, when it comes down to it, both are right and both are wrong in what they're saying. Some more right, some more wrong, but they're often, again, like I mentioned before, there's often some science to back up whatever it is that they're saying. There's a reason why they're saying what they're saying. But it is a problem. It can be confusing for somebody who's maybe not educated in the subject, who doesn't have years of working in nutrition or with people who know nutrition or learning from others. And this is why I said earlier, you want to go in with a open mind. Okay. And before the call, if you jumped on earlier, I was talking with Kaylin. There's this misconception that there's a silver bullet, there's a one size fits all, there's a quick fix, a quick pill that can fix the nutrition. And I hate to tell you that that's a huge problem in that understanding, because it doesn't exist. Okay, there's no such thing as a one size fits all. So when it comes to nutrition, what you need to know to combat those things, and I'll leave this maybe up for a second so you can see. If you haven't written these down, maybe write them down, and you're probably going to want to draw an arrow as to what's, next, what's beside it. But again, everyone's pushing their own diets and beliefs versus just foundational principles. Okay. And that's usually what you want to build off of, is those foundational principles that no one can really argue against. That's very clear cut and easy. Less food is better results, that you can achieve amazing results in a short time frame. Another point, that all the science out there tends to conflict with each other, or that there's a silver bullet answer. So these are big problems. Okay. And if you have any other questions or any other problems that you're like, man, what about this? Feel free to throw it in the chat box and we can address it. But when I look at those problems, there are some things that you need to know to combat those problems, to combat those things that you're going to face when it comes to nutrition. So first one is that everyone has an agenda. Again, not that it's bad. More often than not, they always mean well. Okay. It doesn't matter what they're trying to push towards you. The agenda can be wholesome, but there is an agenda. Okay. So just understanding that even if it's your friend who's trying to push you to go keto or plant-based or carnivore or whatever it is, the friend really just has your best interests in mind. Okay. But it doesn't necessarily mean what works for them will work for you. Okay. So just understand that, the agenda is they're pushing something out to you, with the hope that you'll subscribe to that. You'll sign up for that. Okay. So that's something that you need to foundationally understand, is that there's always an agenda behind it. When it comes to less food equals better results, it's not always the case. Actually, with the people that I've worked with in the past, more often than not, especially women, I get them to eat more, and lo and behold, they get better results. Okay. So results, when I look at results or progress or what people want, it often comes from quality, not quantity. Okay. If you're learning on the job, okay, as a first responder, if you're doing something incorrectly or maybe not as efficient as you possibly could be, it doesn't matter how often you practice it, you may not necessarily be getting better. You might get a little better to a point, but eventually you're not going to make the progress that you want to make. And that's where quality is important, not quantity. If I look at a basketball player, if they're constantly missing their free throw and they just keep practicing their free throw without making any adjustments to their practice or the quality of their practice, they're never going to get better at that. And so that's where quality is important, not quantity. Okay. The next point is, for fast results is often a red flag for unhealthy practices. Not always the case, but through my experience, more often than not, if something or some protocol or somebody is promising, results overnight or seemingly overnight, that's usually a red flag that they are promoting unhealthy practices. Okay. And this can result in some very negative things when it comes to your overall health and your performance. So looking at things with that lens, anytime you see something making outlandish claims or something that requires, it's a quick fix or a pill, driving home from the gym, there's a big billboard that says lose 6 inches and 20 pounds in 6 weeks. And it infuriates me, because it's promoting this very probably unhealthy practice to see, the results that people might be wanting to see. So understand that anytime something seems too good to be true, especially when it surrounds nutrition or weight loss or performance or get abs or whatever, it's often a red flag. Okay. That there's some unhealthy practices. You're trading long-term health and performance for what's seemingly a short-term. If any of you have been on a diet in the past and have, or seen somebody even go on a diet, and then, they see great success, and then, 2 weeks after the diet's over, or 4 weeks after the diet's over, they're back to the same spot or worse than when they started. That just proves my point. Okay. Next point is, many things can work, But as with most things in life, and as Kaylin and I were chatting before the call, if you guys heard some of that conversation, everything in life has more nuance to it than what you maybe care or will see. So understand that there's never a one size fits all, that it's hyper individualized person to person. And anytime a professional or somebody says otherwise, I would probably look for another professional. There's never a one size fits all. Again, there are certain principles that you want to build off of. But as time goes on, the more individualized you get, the better off you'll be, or the better results you'll get. Okay. And that kind of leads me to the last point. Nutrition is based on individual factors. Okay. There are lots of things to take into account when it comes to an individual. There's their history, there's their allergies, there's their food preferences. Depending on where, your background, food can have religious factors that go into it. And so there are lots of things. And that's why I say, for me as a coach, it's irresponsible to push one ideology or one methodology of nutrition onto the clients I work with, simply because it's so individual. Okay. And it's never one size fits all. So it's more of a, how can you find out what's going to work best for you as an individual, based on some very basic, and it's going to seem overly basic, trust me, but building off of those principles into something that's more specialized and customized and individualized to you, that's where you're going to see not only great success, but that's where you're going to see success in the long run. Okay, if you remember yesterday, or if you watched the training from yesterday, the 4 C's. So there are some certain things that you as an individual need to kind of own. Okay, you need to empower yourself, take ownership on, and that's getting clarity, having the courage to seek out clarity, having the courage to say, you know what, that might not be for me, or whatnot. Being consistency, we'll touch on that in a second, or having consistency, and communicating with the professionals around you, doctors, nutritionists, coaches, your friends, your family. Communication can really help open your world and provide more inputs of information that, when you have these tools that I'm going to give you, don't make things confusing. They just add to the picture rather than muddy it up, if that makes sense. Okay. So nutrition for female first responders. These are the 4 simple rules. We're going to go through these in a little bit. We're going to go each rule in depth. Okay. But if I take that first rule, okay, aim for quality before anything else. Okay. From my experience, again, this might not be you, but this is more often than not, from my experience, quality is something that lacks in most people's nutrition. Okay. So for the first responders I work with, I'll give you an example. I was working with an individual. She, on my first consultation with her, claimed she ate healthy. And, at first glance, looking at her food journal, you'd probably think the same thing. As we got into it, it turned out that there were a lot of things that she was thinking was healthy that maybe wasn't quite, or there are things that she, like I said before, she thought that if she ate less, she would, see the weight loss she was looking to see. When all in all, after working with her, she stayed the same weight, but her muscle increased, and because muscle is more dense than fat. If you looked at a picture of her, it would have looked like she lost 40 pounds. When in actuality, she weighed the exact same. We just there's body recomposition that took place. And that was because we switched a lot of her food items with quality food items. Okay. So if I think about quality, these are going to be some things that you want to focus around. So aim for quality above all else. It's consume more naturally occurring foods. Rule of thumb that I always give clients is, if you can find it in nature, you can probably consume it. Probably, not always, but probably. And so things like, I think that's pretty straightforward. If it comes in a wrapper, it's probably not naturally occurring, usually. Another kind of key aspect about quality is eat with as much variety as possible. Okay, so you want to vary your protein, vary your carbs, vary your fats. Now, when it comes to protein, this could mean there's various different protein. I find a lot of people get stuck on chicken breast. But you want to vary your protein sources. And the reason why is each protein source is going to have different amino acid profiles, which means you're going to get different nutrients within your body. Now, if you're vegetarian or vegan, protein still needs to be a staple within your diet. You just need to get it from other sources. Okay. But the more variance you can have in the source of protein, the more nutrient profiles you're going to get, the more variety you're going to get. And when that happens, when you vary your protein, when you vary your carbs, so when we're talking carbs, an apple is a carb, a banana is a carb, a potato is a carb, bread is a carb. It's a little bit more complex. It's a little more processed. So when I say naturally occurring foods, the less processed the food is, the better. Okay. Not to say don't have processed foods, but try and aim to have more naturally occurring foods. Okay. And the more variance you have in these proteins, carbs, and fats, the more nutrients you're going to get throughout your diet, and the micronutrients, your vitamin profiles, your minerals and irons and what have you. And this is going to make sure that you stay balanced from a hormone standpoint. Vegetables is a huge one. Okay. So when I talk to clients, I'm going to say the rule of thumb that I always give them is eat the rainbow. Okay. Without going into too much detail, okay, a green pepper versus a red pepper versus a yellow pepper, sure, they are all peppers, but the micronutrients within those peppers are slightly different, and that's actually what results or produces the different color of pepper. And so if you are varying your colors, you're going to get more vitamins from your food sources, which is going to save you money on purchasing copious amounts of shitty supplements. Okay, if you're varying your food, you don't have to buy those supplements. You just get varied food, and you get all of your vitamins and minerals from that. Okay. Shop on this. So this is a rule of thumb to get those more naturally occurring foods. There's lots of ways to do it. There's lots of ways I could spin this. Quick question, maybe before I go into that. Would protein drinks be a variant of protein types? Yes, it would. So there are different protein types. And even within proteins, there are different proteins. So for example, whey protein is a dairy derivative, okay? And your body digests that a lot faster. So it's good to have whey protein after a workout because your body digests it faster. The amino acid profiles helps your body recover and build the muscles that you've broken down during the workout in a good way. Casein protein is another milk or dairy derivative. But your body digests that a lot slower. And so it's good to have casein protein as like a pudding snack before you go to bed, because it's going to keep you fuller longer. There's lots of other different types of protein powder drinks, soy protein, if you're vegan or vegetarian. So yes, protein drinks would be a variant. And in fact, I recommend lots of people, add some sort of protein, drinkable protein to their diet or to their nutrition protocols, simply because I find people are more often, I would say 90% of the time, people are under on their protein. They need to be eating more protein. So hopefully, Jessica, that answers your question. But love the questions. Keep them coming. So when I'm talking about, aim for quality above all else, if you shop on the outside of the grocery store, okay, this is going to, generally speaking, not every grocery store is the same, but generally speaking, your coolers, your freezers, your vegetables, everything's going to be on the outskirts of the grocery store, and through the center of the grocery store in the aisles is going to be all your processed food. So that's, again, a very simple rule of thumb that I always give to people is when you're focusing on trying to eat quality foods above all else, is shop on the outside of the grocery store. Keeps it easy, keeps it simple. Okay. Another basic rule is that I will give to people: if it has a food label, or like I said earlier, comes in a wrapper, it often isn't, meaning it often isn't food. Okay. So the more items on the food label, the more ingredients in that food, odds are, not all again, there's no one size fits all. There's no golden rule, but generally speaking, if it has a food label, the more processed it will be, and the more processed it is, the less actual food it is. I'm not saying that to scare you. I'm not saying that to shut that off entirely. What I'm saying is, the more of that kind of shitty food you have, the harder it will be to get the results you're looking for. And we'll go over that in the reasons for that in a bit. But just understand, if it has a food label, the more ingredients it has within that food label, the less actual food or the less naturally occurring it is. Okay. Again, not always the case, but generally. And another, when it comes to high quality food, there's often high quality versions or substitutes of shitty food. Okay, so sugar, for example. Let's take a Snickers bar. Okay, a Snickers bar, I think we can all agree, as delicious as it is probably not the healthiest. Now, am I saying don't have a Snickers bar? Absolutely not. We'll get into that in a second. What I'm saying is don't have a Snickers bar breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Okay, have a Snickers bar once in a blue moon as a treat. The next step up, I would put protein bars in that classification. Now, again, if you look at the ingredients of a protein bar, there's still a lot of ingredients in there. It might, look healthy based on the wrapper, but it's still processed food. More often than not, like, protein bars will have high contents of sugar, okay, which is not much different than Snickers. All that's different really is the fact that the protein bar has more protein, but all the same rest of your Snickers. Okay. And then your next level up, sugars, fruits, okay, strawberries, bananas, blueberries, raspberries. Notice I'm listing a bunch of different colored fruits and vegetables, or fruits, grapes. These can be, this sugar, it's still sugar, but we can all agree that it's probably better sugar for you. So if you have a sweet tooth, if you like those sort of things, try and look for like better alternatives. Kaylin, any particular protein that you recommend before and after workouts that would be more beneficial for muscle repair? As a quick answer to that, Kaylin, is during, if you have some sort of BCAA, again, you can find, I think, Kaylin, you mentioned you're vegan or vegetarian. So there are BCAAs that are vegan, vegetarian friendly. But BCAA stands for branched chain amino acid, which is just going to help a little bit. Again, there's some science behind it. I don't fully buy into the science that's out there, but it can make your water taste good. But it also does have some benefit to muscle repair. And then post-workout, my staple recommendation to most is whey protein, and something that you find tastes good. But generally, when you're looking at proteins, a general rule of thumb, again, I'm not here to tell you one way or the other, but what I often will tell clients is try and find something that is low in carb and high in protein and tastes good, meaning you're going to drink it because it tastes good. It's low in carbs, high in protein. Okay. There's lots of different kinds you can find, whether it's whey or soy or anything, but something like that that's easily digestible after a workout. So hopefully that answers your question, Kaylin. If not, throw it in the chat box. So when it comes to your next rule, okay, when it comes to the 4 simple rules, first rule, aim for quality above all else. Second rule is, that's when we get into the conversation of quantity, okay? So again, depends on the individual, but if I'm working with somebody more one-on-one, I'm going to talk to them first about, okay, where's the quality at? I want to see where they're at there first. What are they doing within their life? And are there improvements that we can make? That's where I'll always start before I, throw a bunch of detailed information at them to overwhelm them and make them feel like a failure. I don't want to set them up for failure. I want to set them up for success. So we're going to focus on quality first. Okay. And more often than not, you'll start to see some progress as a result of that. Then I shift the conversation into quantity. Okay. So you want to make sure your quantity matches your output. So when it comes to nutrition, you want to make sure, again, quantity matches your output. If you're aware on quantity and focus on quality, almost guaranteed you're going to start to see some improvements or success to whatever relates for you. Okay, this could go for if somebody's looking for weight loss. If we focus on quality first and then make them aware on quantity, they'll start seeing weight loss. Okay, if somebody's looking for body recomposition, meaning you want to stay the same weight and you just want to start to see some muscle definition, okay? You want to look toned, look athletic, that sort of thing. Again, focus on quality first. And then even if I, without giving them specifics on quantity, if I just make them aware of what they're consuming and they're focusing on quality, they're going to see success. Okay, if somebody's looking at weight gain, they want to put on some muscle. Okay, same thing. Quality first, quantity second, and even just that awareness on quantity will help somebody feel successful. So case in point, something I mentioned before or alluded to, a lot of the women I work with will come to me looking for either weight loss or they want to look a little more toned while simultaneously getting stronger and more capable for their job as a first responder. More often than not, I get them to eat more. And that's, again, the conversation usually starts, let's go quality first. And then, and then when I make them aware of quantity, they're like, oh shit, I'm not eating enough. Maybe that's why I'm feeling overtired and overstressed and just no energy throughout the day. Okay. I'm fumbling with things that should be easy. Okay. That's usually because they're under eating. So just being aware of quantity can help immensely without having, hard to follow rules around quantity. Understanding your caloric and macro and micronutrient needs. So one recommendation I always give is if you haven't done this, get your blood work done by a professional, of course, not somebody who's running a back alley clinic. Make sure you get blood work done. That's going to give you some idea on where your deficiencies are. Are you low in iron? Are you low in zinc? And I'll touch on supplements here in a second, in a few minutes. But just understanding what your needs are. So if you are a first responder, which all of you are or are looking to become, then generally speaking, you're going to be working a job that has a higher physical demand on you. And within that, some are going to have more physically demanding attributes than others. Okay. If you're in a squad car all day and, driving around, sitting on your butt in a squad car, you might have some activity, but not much. Versus somebody who's in a very busy, we'll say fire department or very busy police department or whatever, who's on their feet all day, walking around, taking care of shit. There's going to be different caloric needs for those individuals. So understanding your activity levels and being real and honest with yourself can help you understand, okay, do I need to eat more? Do I need to eat less? Am I overeating? Am I undereating? And again, you don't want to do both. You don't want to do either. You don't want to overeat. You don't want to undereat. You want to eat according to you as an individual. Okay, what's going to help you? And you don't want to go too far one way or the other because there are major health concerns both directions. Okay. And I know you're probably thinking like, well, what do I eat? How much do I eat? And we'll touch on that in a bit. This is a big one. So feeling full doesn't mean you're getting fatter. Okay. I get this all the time. Okay. And I'm going to just take a second and I want to share I didn't put this in the slide, but I'm just thinking of it now. Stomach. So when it comes to nutrition, the idea that if you are full, there's often a lot of people that will say, oh, if I'm full, I'm getting fatter. And while that might be the case if you're full on Doritos or in chocolate bars, it doesn't necessarily mean you're full, period. Okay. So if I look at, and I'm just going to share this screen, it's just taking a second to load. But if I look at what it looks like in your stomach, okay, what nutrition looks like in your stomach. Sorry, this is just taking one quick second. The calorie density matters and it varies from individual to individual. Okay. So if I look at calorie density, I just pulled this up here. If you just Google like 500 calories in the stomach, I'm going to try and pull up this image. So when it comes to nutrition, 500 calories or 400 calories of, whole foods, you can't really see it. You can kind of see that picture. Try and blow it up a little bit. But 400 calories of fruits and vegetables will fill up your stomach fairly full. So if you're eating 400 calories of fruits and vegetables on the plate, it's going to look like a ton of food. In your stomach, it's going to feel like a ton of food, but that doesn't mean you're overeating. Okay. If you're eating 400 calories of high quality foods, again, going to that conversation before, you're going to feel full, and that's a good feeling. Okay. But the problem is society today, lots of people will equate that full feeling to, oh, I'm going to gain weight. And that's not always the case. Okay. It's, again, that conversation of quality is important. 400 calories of oil. So we'll say chips, chocolate bars, shitty food, shitty sources, 400 calories is not going to fill up a ton of room. So you're going to feel, okay, I'm still hungry after eating, this bag of Doritos. And then you eat 2, 3, 4 bags of Doritos. And then you're like, oh my God, I'm full. Again, that doesn't necessarily, or that's full of the wrong foods. And now you're at, 1,600 calories of shitty foods versus 400 calories of high quality foods. So, something to just hopefully easily illustrate the idea that just because you're full doesn't necessarily mean it doesn't have a negative outcome or result from that. Okay. So with going back to my info here. So again, it's just a very small rule that you want to, there we go. Very small rule you want to be aware of. Okay. Is feeling full doesn't always equate to getting fatter. Okay. Or getting unhealthier or what have you. Ensuring your quantity matches your output. So less food doesn't mean better results. Like I mentioned earlier, less food can result in hormone imbalances, eating disorders. There's tons of negative fallouts to constantly eating or stressing about, low food. It doesn't mean you're going to get better results. In fact, it could be, less food can have just as, if not worse effects than more food. And that's where it's important to find that equilibrium for you as an individual, and that understand, this is not a point that I put in here, but understand that equilibrium will change over time based on your goals, based on your activity levels at that point in your life. Okay. One thing, again, that I don't have in this slide too, if you are or have become or plan to become pregnant at any point in time, again, your nutrient needs change because now you're supporting another life. So that's a different conversation when it comes to that, but just understand that, less is not better. Okay. Better is better. Now, the last one, ensure your quantity matches your output. Quantity tracking can be hugely beneficial. Now, you're going to hear a lot of people that would argue, a lot of nutrition scientists and this and that would argue that they don't want their clients to track their food. And I would agree if I'm working with an individual who has in the past struggled with an eating disorder, I'm not going to take that route with them. I'm not going to advise them that they track their food. I'm going to focus on quality, probably beyond anything, and not even touch on quantity, simply because of their past and their history. And I don't want to trigger them to, negative health in one direction. So, but for, again, generally speaking, for most individuals, quantity tracking can be beneficial. Okay. Not always, it's not always beneficial, but it can be. So I put a couple ideas in there, MyFitnessPal and Food Journal, but I did want to make a special note on MyFitnessPal. When you set up your profile on MyFitnessPal, I usually recommend the paid version versus the unpaid version. I know it costs a bit of money. However, if the reason why the paid version is good is that there's a few tools that you can actually focus on better, which does away with the whole calorie conversation, which again, there's validity in it, but again, my experience with the individuals I work with, that's not the best way to go. We're going to work on macros and micronutrients and stuff like that. But the reason why I put this in here is MyFitnessPal, when you input your information, how much you weigh, how much you want to weigh, etc., it's going to give you or spit out some recommendations. And I always strongly advise to not follow those recommendations, but instead rather seek out an educated professional, doctor, dietitian, nutritionist, somebody like myself who's well-versed with nutrition and coaching, and understand and educate yourself as an individual. Okay. MyFitnessPal, it's algorithms, but they don't know the details, the nuances of you as a person. So that's why I always say, don't follow the recommendations MyFitnessPal does. That being said, it is my favorite tool to log and track nutrition. Especially as a coach, it's easy for me to see clients and stuff. So I'll just make sure I'm watching the chat box in case anything else comes up. So those are the first 2 rules. Aim for quality before anything else. So quality first, you usually start to see some progress. Once you fix quality, then you go into quantity to match your output. That's when you start to see the snowball fly. I'm in Canada, so that's my it's when you start to see things progress the way you want to see them. If I'm looking at, it's going to take a second to load. The third rule, planning ahead. So that old saying, failure to plan is planning to fail. So making sure that you are taking some time each week to plan your week ahead of time. Okay. When am I going to go out with friends? When am I going to do this? When am I going to do that? When am I going to sit down and like meal prep? Doesn't have to be all week, but maybe you make your lunches for the week, or maybe you when you're going to be off shift and you're going to have days off. And so you're going to plan, to have a few meals prepared for when you're on your stretch of shifts. It looks different for each individual, but setting aside time each and every week to plan ahead will help you get some clarity and help you develop a plan for yourself that's going to help you succeed. Okay. Make planning your daily meals a part of your morning or rising routine. I put rising because some of you are on night shifts and you don't see the light of day. You just see dark, and then you work in the dark, and then you go to bed in the dark. So whenever you wake up, make planning your day ahead of time. Okay, I prepped this earlier this week. I'm going to pull that out of the fridge. I know that I'm going to be driving past this fast food restaurant, whatever it is, healthy version. And I'm going to pick that up for lunch. Just having a game plan in your head helps you in executing it. And more often than not, when people don't plan, that's where they often snowball the wrong direction and get the results that they don't want to see, is because they just haven't planned ahead. Okay. Know when you are going out and when you need to adjust for your goals. So a lot of people are shocked to hear that if I'm working with an individual and they're like, oh, I want to go for wings with my friends and my coworkers, this coming week, I say, good, go for it. But again, have a plan in mind, and you can be exact with it. You can be ballpark, I know I'm going to have 12 wings. Okay, cool. Roughly 12 wings is going to give you this much protein, this much fat, this much carbs. Go for it. Go nuts. Now, again, if you're having 12 wings every night, it's a different problem. We're now leaning away from quality, but once in a blue moon, not going to kill you. Okay. So live your life, enjoy the things you want to enjoy, be in social situations. If you have kids, have their fucking birthday cake. Like, don't be that person who carries a petri dish of food with them everywhere they go. Okay. Be real and realistic with yourself when it comes to your nutrition. Trust me, it'll be easy to follow and you'll actually enjoy it. One little thing I always get clients I work with, have some healthy or, snacks that you like and enjoy and are, again, quality food. Have them handy, because as a first responder, you're going to be in situations where you might go 10, 12, 14 hours on shift and you're like, shit, I didn't eat today. Okay. Now that would be the same as trying to drive, this is less for those in Europe, but from one side of the continent to the other on one tank of gas. Okay. By the end, you're going to be just depleted if you even get that far. Okay. So having emergency snacks handy as often as possible. So carrying something with you to get you through the day. This is a small tip recommendation. One thing I always tell the clients I work with is those little baby food packets of like pureed fruit and vegetables. If you carry one of those with you, and there are good tasting ones, I know it sounds weird, but there are good tasting ones. If you carry one of those in your bag or in your squad car or readily available, if you're being called out to a situation and you're not sure how long it could take 20 minutes, could take 5 hours, having that handy or in your pocket or available will ensure that you're not caught in a situation where you're halfway through a call and just energy's gone, you have nothing left, and things feel 10 times heavier than they are. That shot of carbs can actually help you because it's pureed, your body digests it faster, can give you energy to get through those situations. Little tidbit of info for you. Understand that proper nutrition takes work, but so does being unhealthy. Okay. I get met with this all the time. People are like, I don't have time to meal prep. I don't have time to plan ahead. And my, I guess, response to them is, you have the choice, either make time now or you'll be forced to make time later. You'll be in a position where you're in a very unhealthy state. And, if you don't set aside the time, either way, it's difficult. Either way, it's hard. Okay. Either way, it takes work. What work do you want to put in? Do you want to put it in on the front end and be able to live your life and do the things you want to do? Or do you want to do the work on the back end and probably shorten your life expectancy? It sounds dramatic, but that's reality. So understand that proper nutrition will take work. It will be difficult. And, that's where, some people will invest in nutrition plans. Other people will invest in a nutrition coach to kind of help guide them through it. And others will just, like I had one girl, she's actually a personal trainer. I worked with her for years. And then she went and got her nutrition certification because she wanted to learn more. And, I still work with her to this day. But she, in that situation, she took it upon herself to educate herself further. Okay. So, it's your body, it's your responsibility. Okay. So that's our first three rules. Okay. The fourth rule is the goal is not perfection. Well, before we get to that rule, Kaylin, any tips for unhealthy cravings? For example, chocolate when it's that time of the month. Go for it. Have the chocolate, just in moderation. So, again, nothing's inherently wrong with having a little bit of chocolate. There's nothing wrong with that. It's the problem comes when one chocolate bar or one half of a chocolate bar becomes 6. Okay, that's where the problem starts to snowball in the wrong direction. So if you're craving chocolate, have it. I'll maybe, Kaylin, I can maybe send you some articles on, when you're craving this, it's usually a deficiency in a certain micronutrient, which means that, you're just needing that particular micronutrient. So that time of the month, a tendency is, if you're in that time of the month, tendency is you're going to be lower on iron, and that can produce some cravings such as chocolate. And so having some iron handy, or better yet, getting some blood work done to see where you're at from a nutrient profile, see where you're deficient and where you're maybe not deficient, can give you a little bit of insight of like, oh, if I add in some iron vitamins, to my morning routine, those cravings might go away. But yeah, I'll send you that. So there is certain things, if you have certain cravings, it's usually an indicator that you're deficient in some sort of micronutrient or vitamin or mineral. And as a result, that's where those cravings are coming from. Not always, but usually. So I'll try and post that up in the group as well. And that'll give you some guidance around that. But again, if you want chocolate, have chocolate. Like I'm never saying don't do that, because that is unsustainable, which leads me to that last point is the goal is not perfection. It's consistency. Aim for 80% or better every day. So I had a client who I was speaking with, she saw amazing results. We worked together for, it's been about 1.5 years now. I've worked with her. And she, the first year she was over the moon happy. She was like just floored at the results she was seeing. However, she hit a point where she stalled and she wasn't making the results she wanted to keep making. Now, through our relationship and through time, we've had lots of conversations, but it finally came out, we'll say, that she had shifted into this, what I would say is not overly healthy, where she was, 70, 80% on her, nutrition, 5 days a week. But when it hit the weekends, it was like a shit show. She was all over the place, and sometimes she didn't eat, sometimes she ate complete garbage. And so, she was essentially she was undoing all of her work during the week on the weekends. And so through conversations and working on certain habits, and I kind of got her focused in on things a little bit more. She's now 80% every day, and she's starting to see progress again, simply because, again, she's not perfect. She still goes out with friends. She still has beer. She still has chocolate. But she doesn't have these things in excess amounts that are detrimental to the progress she wants to see. Okay. So the goal is not perfection. It's consistency. And the benchmark I always give people is, if you were to look back on your day from a nutrition standpoint, as long as you can give yourself a 4 out of 5 or an 8 out of 10, you're going to be making progress, especially as time goes on. Okay. The other reason why I say consistency is good versus overly restrictive diets is these overly restrictive diets and nutrition protocols are really difficult to follow, especially in a job as a first responder that requires you to have flexibility, that requires you to, go for long periods without food. Okay. So, they're really difficult to follow, which makes them, if they're hard to follow, you're probably not going to see success in following them. If you don't see success in following them, you're probably not going to see results. If you don't see results and you're not following the plan, you're probably going to feel like a complete failure and feel like you're not making the progress, and you'll never make the progress that you want to make. So in my mind, especially working with first responders, that's setting them up for failure. Instead, as a first responder, you want flexibility with nutrition. It's incredibly important to ensure that you're going to see progress. It's going to be easy to follow. And if it's easy to follow and you're seeing progress, you're going to stick to it. And you're going to do it for a long period of time. And if you do it for a long period of time, you're going to see results forever. Okay. I put this in: as your goals and life changes, so does your nutritional needs. Okay. So I mentioned this before. Things like, if you go from working on your feet all day to maybe you become higher in your position within your department, okay, which requires you to be at a desk more often. Well, now your nutritional needs have changed. Okay. If you become pregnant, your nutritional needs are going to change. As big life changes happen, as things happen, as time goes on, your nutritional needs will change. And it's either up to you to understand how and where those changes are and how to adjust, your protocols and your habits, or, if you're not going to take it upon yourself to overly educate yourself, working with an individual you trust to ensure that you have somebody to bounce ideas off of and to help guide you through that. Okay. And I would say somebody that you trust that also has foundational good knowledge. Okay. So if you take consistency and you take time, add them together, guaranteed you're going to see progress. Okay. Again, the goal is not perfection. It's consistency. Life is meant to be enjoyed with freedom, not imprisoned with rules. Okay. I'm not even going to get into the topic of, outside of nutrition, what that statement might imply, but at the end of the day, you probably want freedom, and a little bit of freedom and flexibility with some sound principles around it is going to help you get the results you want to get, whether it's increasing muscle, whether it's looking more toned, whether it's decreasing body fat. Again, you want to keep it in a healthy window, and there certainly is a healthy window, but within that healthy window, you can have freedom. You can enjoy cake with family, with kids. You can enjoy wings with friends. You can enjoy beer once in a while, or wine, or whatever it is you like. There's not a one size fits all, but if you're consistent over a long enough timeline, you're going to see results. And I put this in again, I can't say this enough. Achieving that balance, there's overeating, there's undereating, there's shitty food, there's unsustainable good diets. Finding that balance is based on the individual, and that balance point changes over time. Again, the goal is consistency, not perfection. I cannot stress that enough. So this is, it didn't save my last thing. Give me 1 second here. Yep. Through my things out of order. Anyways, nutrition protocol. We'll get into that in a second. So the basic simple rules: seek quality, naturally occurring foods. Okay, seek balance and track quantity Okay, however is simple for you. And again, I'll put a little asterisk beside that track quantity. If you have experienced, or when you were younger, or possibly even now, if you have been exposed to an eating disorder at any point in time, I'm going to put a big asterisk beside that track quantity and just scratch it. Say quality first. But again, every individual is different. You know yourself. But I am going to say that. Okay, plan ahead. Okay, planning your meals ahead of time, making sure you have quality foods in the proper quantities to support your activity level, that you're getting enough food, but not too much. That's going to be important. So plan ahead, seek to be consistent, 80% or better, and live your damn life. Okay, so that's your foundational nutrition protocol. So, not seeing any other questions come in. So your customized guide. So I'm going to give you guys a tool. Hopefully you have a pen and paper handy or a way to take notes in some fashion. But like I said, we'll build you a customized guide. Again, it's not meant to be a be all end all, but it's going to give you some foundational information to build off of, okay, at this point in life. Now, if you were to use this same nutrition guide 10 years from now, there's a miss, okay? Where you are at today, we'll give you a guide on where you're at today. And then as time goes on, you can use that to see results. But if you feel that you're starting to stall out in results, you honestly could use the same link and hit me up again for a new guide, or just link up with myself and we can chat about coaching options and how to get you those next results. But giving you this guide will give you a good foundation to start off of, and whether you decide, I want to work with you, Brandon, or you want to take it and work with somebody else, it'll at least give you some foundational information in which to build from. Okay, so this link, go to this link, write it down, https://heroicathletics.typeform.com/2/lowercase xv uppercase OTO0G lowercase w. So if you go to the link, it's going to be 10 questions that you're going to answer. And of those questions, that's going to give me appropriate information. Make sure you be honest with yourself on those questions. It's going to ask you your activity level. It's going to ask you your workout. You have to be super honest and realistic with yourself. Don't overestimate or underestimate. We'll get you your guide in 2 days or less. The goal, I usually try and keep a quick turnaround, but some days I become busier than others. So 48 hours or less, we'll get that guide to you. Again, free of charge, customized guide. It's all yours. You can use it and follow it. You can use it and hit me up for more information. You can use it and carry on and move on to other stuff. But either way, it'll hopefully give you a foundational guide to quickly answer questions that might be popping up in your head. Yes, there are options for vegan, vegetarian. Yes, there are options for paleo, or if you have no diet preferences. That's why I need that information from you, so we can build an appropriate guide that matches you as an individual. So that should do it. I don't know where I'm at for time. Right on time, 6 p.m. So any other questions, feel free, pop it in the chat box below. Just awkward silence again. That's all good. So if there are no other questions, what we'll do is, like I said, same time tomorrow, I will send out an email just reminding you that we will have a training on mindset for female first responders and some practical things. My goal is to give you some practical advice that you can action today to start to see progress. So we're going to go over mindset for training, mindset for a career as a first responder, and what ways in which you can build and intentionally build a stronger mindset. It's the best way I can say it. So really pumped and looking forward to taking you through that training tomorrow. Again, I'll post a recording of this training in the group, in the Facebook group. Make sure you add yourself to that. If there are no other questions, I think that's it. We'll leave it at that. So thanks again for taking the time to watch the call. Hopefully you learned a lot, and we will see you tomorrow. Bye.